Guys, I've got just something so special. I would love to introduce you to Harrington. He's amazing. He's a BDSM educator on every topic that you can imagine. And I had a discussion with him on a variety of topics, and one of them is switching. Now, I'm not a switch, and he is. And he had some really, really valuable insights. So I would love to share with him. I'm just giving him the stage. Just said that I'm heart and soul submissive, but I love to dominate every now and then. I wouldn't consider myself a switch, even though it's quite easy for me to switch. I need a bit of time, but it's not. I mean, it can just pop up like this, while I'm having a conversation with my master, and I'm in a very submissive position. Something can happen that triggers my switch feeling, so to say. I struggled with it in the beginning, and I think I'm not the only one. So how do you find out that you're a switch, and how do you cope with it? Is it just a matter of practicing it and just figure out what you like and what you don't like, or how does that? Do you have any advice? I mean, you just said that you're a switch, so I thought like you're the good person to ask it.
So, funny enough, I'm actually doing a class coming up soon for Wicked Grounds entirely on switching. So if anybody wants to spend 2 hours with me, feel free to come find me. For me, I have come to realize that I am a being that has many sides. Uh-huh. And a friend of mine, Diamond Blue, who's another sexuality educator in the United States, says that each of us are gemstones. We have an authentic side, which is how we interact with our parents. Mm-hmm. We can be authentic in that. And we can be authentic at the office, mm-hmm, and show that authenticity. And we can be authentic in the bedroom and show that authenticity. But if you look at them, they're not the same. It would be inappropriate to have me be the authentic self that I am in my bedroom with my children. In many situations, right? It might have similar flavors and parts of our authenticity, but we have different sides. And so I love the notion that with switching, for some people it's like a literal on-off. For other people, it's a dimmer switch, right? A rheostat that maybe right now they're 2% dominant, right? They're 20% dominant. They're 98% dominant, but they still have that 2% that is still authentically submissive. And for other folks, it is turning that gemstone. This is who I am and how I am with this other facet of my inner emerald or ruby or diamond. And so for me, when I use the word switch, I use it because it's an easy way to start the conversation. But some people have a story that a switch means you can switch all of the time, or that, and I know some people for whom, no, there are some people they submit to and some people they dominate.
Right. Yeah.
There are some people for whom they are dominant in their submission, i.e., I bring all of this power and even my ability to have other people surrender to me. And that is the gift I bring to my dominant. And I think, for example, of people who have multi-submissive households, right? Or leather families, have, maybe 3 or 4 submissives in a group, but having one person who is the lead, and now they're a dominant who is also submissive.
That would fit me. I would resonate with that. Definitely. Because it's actually one of the things that I'm super dominant in normal life. And I had this discussion with another submissive and she was struggling with it because she said, like, I could never submit to somebody. And I told her that that's exactly what I thought, until I met my master. Because when I started playing with my master, I was still with my ex-husband, with the father of my children. And so he knew what was going on, and he decided to try with me what would happen if he would bring in a bit of power exchange in our relationship. And he started pulling my hair in the shower. Now, you know what happened? I immediately, I unleashed my hair. I grabbed his hair and I pulled him down like this on his knees. He was definitely not somebody that I could submit to. And I think I'm very, very blessed that I met my master, actually, that I actually met somebody that I could submit to, surrender to. But do you think that there are also switches that could switch with the same person? For instance, I have a friend couple, and they're both dominant. So they switch for each other, but it's definitely not their. It's more that they bottom. They don't submit. It's different. Well, if I understand correctly, like how I see what is the difference between submissive and bottom.
I've met a rainbow of people when it comes to what gets called switching. Yeah. I know a couple who are collared to each other.
Oh, that's wonderful.
They did a ritual where they both went, we want to be together, and power is how we interact with each other as their primary part of their relationship. And so they both wore collars, and then they both clipped a leash to each other's collar at the same time.
That's awesome.
As a way to say, what was important for them is they surrendered to each other, but who was submissive at any given moment didn't matter. It was about that trust, that connection. I know other people for whom maybe they can submit to someone early on in an evening of play and connection, or surrender or submit to them, right? Whatever it might be. But once they go into a dominant headspace, they can't go backwards, right? They could be like, I can spend the first 3 hours here, but as soon as we flip my switch, that's where I am.
Yeah.
Even with the same partner.
Yeah.
And so I think it's a question as well as what will serve your relationship and what is authentic to you. But I will name, right? Because not everybody's polyamorous. Many people are monogamous, and that's fantastic. But I do also have two people in my leather family, one who is Ms. Senna. Mm-hmm. And she teaches in her classes a story of her and her husband, that they are both dominant, and they tried. And so she ties him up to a banister, and afterwards they were like, that was just stupid. Like, what was that all about? Like, that did nothing for either of us. And he tried to do stuff to her, and she was just like, why? What is happening here? Like, we both like the idea of playing with these things, but there was no chemistry. And so they end up finding a third person who wanted to submit to both of them. And for them, that worked for a while. And then they also got to try out the idea of each of them finding someone. And so even within folks who choose to explore polyamory or having multiple partners, or part-time people, right? Like somebody that you play with, but you don't have a life and a home and like a personal connection with beyond the bedroom or beyond the dungeon. Whatever you choose, I think it's about the communication, right? And part of communication, I will own though, is to say, hey, that thing we did yesterday, are you available to talk about it? To make sure somebody's okay. And I want to talk about the scene we did last night. And once they say yes, because I'd like to see how we can make it even better for us next time, how we can make our erotic and personal connection even better, and then bring up the hard stuff, right? Talk about the things that are challenging, but also say what's beautiful, I think is so important when you're trying out, especially switching.
Wow.